Dear friends, welcome to the show. Today we are holding our first debate on situations of human rights in different Asian countries, Asia being more than 50% of the world, and Asia is home to many gross human rights violation situations. And we at Asian Human Rights Forum, we raise the human rights issues in different countries of Asia, and our monthly newsletter covers many stories of human rights in different Asian countries. Being a human rights activist, we always believe in peace and harmony. And that's why we don't take up arms, and we don't promote violence. But yes, we bring awareness about different human rights situations in Asian countries, and that's the only task we have. I would not take much of your time, friends, and I will introduce my panelists for today's show. First, it is Azim Bhai. Azim Masih is from Pakistan, and he is vice president of Pakistan Minorities Right Association organization in United Kingdom, and they raise violations of human rights in Pakistan, particularly minorities. Then it is David Vance. David Vance is a very good friend of Asia, and he, as you know, in England there are so many Asians, and they take up their human rights issues in their own countries, living in London. So David is very much aware of different human rights violations in Asian countries. Welcome, David. And then it is Habibur Rahman. Habibur Rahman is president of Pashtun Tahaffuz Movement France, and as you know, that Pashtun issue is a very serious issue. They are branded terrorists, but they are biggest victim of terrorism. And Pashtuns of Afghanistan and Pakistan are facing one of the serious violations of human rights in Pakistan, particularly. And then there is Salih Hudair. Salih Hudair is foreign minister of government in exile of East Turkestan. China has named East Turkestan as Xinjiang province of them, and China has occupied by force. And we hear very much about human rights situation in East Turkestan, particularly their concentration camps and their right to religion, right to freedom of speech, right to gathering, many kind of human rights violations. So they will speak about their issues, and after once everyone has spoken, we will take questions. So friends, you can prepare your questions and post it so that we can take up once question answer session is started. For the first speaker, I would take a neutral person, David Vance, who will speak about situations of human rights in different Asian countries, and Bhutan being a very powerful partner of different Asian countries. So, how Bhutan government should react to the human rights situations in Asia. David, welcome to the show, and floor is yours now.
Hi, Arif. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and a warm welcome to everybody watching this. So, look, I mean, you're talking about human rights violations in Asian countries. I look upon London as an Asian country virtually these days, such has been the demographic changes we've got. And one of the things that unites us, all of us on this call, is that the human rights violations, which we see in various Asian countries, various degree in various ways. We also see the same thing happening here in the UK. There are many UK towns and cities, not even just London, where it's exactly the same. It's the same intolerance, the same hatred of particular groups. So, I feel a strong connection with my Asian friends because we face the same enemy. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. We have absolutely the same enemy, and they're trying to basically terrorize us into silence and to take away our rights. Now, when I look into Asian countries, I mean that's a big number of countries, Arif. There's lots of different countries we can talk about. There are, in my opinion, the authoritarian uh, countries such as China, for example, which has little regard for human rights as far as I can see. So we see that. We have good friends here regarding Pakistan, and we know precisely how intolerant of human rights of minorities that particular country is. And here's one of the big connections. Pakistan is one of those countries which is basically supplying the UK with a very fast growing demographic. So there's a clear link, absolutely clear link in terms of what we face, and we have to stand up to these people who would take away our human rights. You see, here's a point for me: where do human rights come from? That's a fair question. Where do they come from? Well, my view is that they are given to me, not by any politician, not by any man, and no man will take away my human rights. My human rights to assemble with my family, to speak freely, to live my life, to peacefully go around coexistence. These are not demands. These are essential. And so I think it's really important that people like me in the West help my friends in the East, in the Asian countries, because we are heading into the same area that many of you folks know only too well. And I want to do whatever small amount I can do to highlight the problems that you guys face, because these are the same problems that we are rapidly facing, not just in UK, but in France. You can name your countries. Oppression, intolerance, these must be rejected. And those who would impose such restrictions on us and on our lives must be treated with the utmost most contempt. And Arif, you're right. You said in your important introduction that we all seek to bring about change peacefully. And that's important to say. But that doesn't mean that we must tolerate evil and tyranny and oppression. None of those things are tolerable to my mind. So look, I'm, as I said, absolutely delighted to be here with you folks. I'm here to learn probably a lot more from you than you learn from me. But I just want you all to know that your concerns are my concerns, and they should be the concerns of many other people who live where I live here in the UK. Because, as I say, we have bonds of humanity between us, and those are the things that they will not break, and we must stand together. So, Arif, that's basically my intro.
Thank you, David. And you are right. We can only raise the issues peacefully, and we don't have any other choice. Of course, Bhutan is a major global power, and it has influence in many Asian countries. So I hope that Bhutan will play its role in improving the situation of human rights in different Asian countries. Now, I would like to invite Azim Masiji. Azim Masiji is Vice President of Pakistani Minority Rights Organization, and PMRO raises the issues of Pakistani minorities. So, Azim Bhai, floor is yours now.
Thank you, Brother Arif, for giving opportunity to talk about minorities in Pakistan. I know we discuss about the human rights issues everywhere, but what I think is that the issues in Pakistan are much more tense than anywhere else, especially because we work for minorities, and minorities in Pakistan are suffering, and you can see news every day. The churches are getting attacked. The girls are getting forced to convert, and they're kidnapped. They, I mean, Even the underage girls are getting taken away from their parents, and they're forced to get married. So the situation in Pakistan, if I'll go outer side of minorities, you can see that there's intolerance in between all the political parties. Nobody want to accept the other one. and I mean all the chapters outside of different political parties are lashing against each other, and all these situations in Pakistan, it doesn't matter if it is um, Pakistan Muslim League, People Party, or um, Tehreek Insaf, all of them are just fighting against each other. I'm glad to see our other gentleman who is talking about Pashtun rights. So if you go in other meaning, I mean, all the differences of the languages, even and the caste and colors, they are even much deeper in Pakistan. So if you go in, let's say, if I'll give you a simple example. I mean, the different castes, they don't accept the other caste. Actually, although they are all Muslims, I would say, but they don't accept, they don't get married with each other. So the differences are too much. But what we, I think, is always good to um, discuss things, tolerate each other, and educate people actually on human rights, instead of having different religions or the differences of the backgrounds and political things. I think that's my message at the moment, is that we should raise our voice as much as we can. But I can see that it's not only for the minorities in Pakistan. There are different things oppressing each other. If you go to the provinces, I mean, some provinces have more rights than the other one. Some provinces have more control than the other one in Pakistan. So all those things are mixed up, and those mixed up things are making more trouble for the humans living in the Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azim Bhai. And yes, you were speaking about more powers with some provinces. It is one province, Punjab province, is ruling on the might of its army, and other provinces are more like an occupied province or occupied nations, Sindhis, Baloch, Pashtuns. So yes, this is the situation, and you are right that more and more awareness should be brought about minority issues. Thank you, Azim Bhai. And now I would go to Salih Hudair. As you know, friends, that China is a very powerful country, veto power with permanent seat at Security Council, economic and global power, military power, and different regions of today's China are occupied regions. And one of them, one of the biggest region of China is East Turkestan, which is rich in mineral resources, and it was an independent state, but occupied by China by force, and the gross human rights violations are going there. There are dozens of reports by different human rights organizations on gross human rights violations in Xinjiang. We will listen to these reports by Salih Hudair. Salih Hudair, welcome, and floor is yours now.
Firstly, I want to thank you, Mr. Arif Aajakia and the Asia Human Rights Forum for hosting this important panel and for giving me the opportunity to highlight the plight of East Turkestan and its people. The situation in East Turkestan, which is the homeland of Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples, is not just a regional issue. It's a global concern that demands the immediate international attention of the international community and action. It is one of the most pressing, if not the most pressing, humanitarian crises of the 21st century. East Turkestan, an occupied country located in the heart of Asia, in Central Asia, has a history of over 6,000 years. The native peoples of East Turkestan include Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples. Historically, East Turkestan has been the cradle of numerous Indo-European and Turkic empires, kingdoms, and states. And this rich historical tapestry is a testament of the resilience and cultural vibrancy of its people. However, unfortunately, this legacy has been under threat since 1876, when the Manchu Qing Empire invaded and subsequently annexed East Turkestan in 1876 and subsequently annexed it in 1884, renaming East Turkestan to Xinjiang, which translates to the colony or the new territory in the Chinese language. However, the people of East Turkestan never gave up their struggle to reclaim their independence. And the 20th century, the early parts of the 20th century, witnessed the indomitable spirit of the East Turkestani people as they rose up to reclaim their independence, establishing the East Turkestan Republic in November 12th, 1933, and again on November 12th, 1944. These moments of freedom and independence were unfortunately short lived, as the People's Republic of China, or Communist China as we commonly know it, invaded East Turkestan on October 12th, 1949, and overthrew the independent East Turkestan Republic on December 22nd, 1949. For the past 74 years, the people of East Turkestan have endured a brutal campaign of colonization, genocide, and occupation by the Chinese government. These campaigns of genocide include mass internment, forced sterilization, systematic rape, organ harvesting, torture, forced enslavement, and forced indoctrination. At the very moment, millions of our people remain locked up in concentration camps, while millions more have been given official sentences for so-called crimes of separatism or for simply being Uyghur in prisons. At the same time, over 890,000 of our children, Uyghurs and other Turkic children, are currently forcibly separated from their families and put into state-run institutions or internment camps aimed at erasing their identity and assimilating them into what is essentially so-called loyal Chinese citizens, as the Chinese government calls it. Unfortunately, even our religious and cultural identity is under siege. More than 16,000 mosques and other religious sites have been destroyed. Practicing Islam or any other religion, for that matter, in East Turkestan has been effectively criminalized. Thousands of our scholars, our intellectuals, they have been given, anywhere from 15 to life in prison for simply advocating for the practice of whether it's our religion, for advocating for retaining our history, advocating for retaining our culture. Even now, while we're in the last days of Ramadan, the Chinese government, throughout Ramadan, they have been employing tactics like government patrols, sending Chinese government soldiers to Uyghur and the Turkic homes to ensure that these people aren't fasting, inviting them to mandatory forced feasts during the day, forcing them to eat food, and conducting surveillance to prevent them from fasting. And yesterday, April 5th, marked the 34th anniversary of East Turkestan Uprising Day of 1990, which is also known as the Baran Revolution. This day, like many other, signifies the unbroken will of the East Turkestani people to fight for the restoration of their independence and freedom. And I want to conclude with that the ongoing humanitarian crisis in East Turkestan is a clear and ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity, as recognized by the United States government and over a dozen parliaments across the world, including the UK Parliament. Yet, the international community is failing to take effective measures to end this genocide, and thereby, this is allowing the Chinese government to, carry out genocide with impunity. And lastly, our issue is not just simply a human rights issue. The root of the ongoing genocide, the ongoing human rights atrocities, is none other than Chinese occupation and colonization of East Turkestan. Thus, restoring East Turkestan's independence is the only path to ensuring the human rights, the freedom, the religious liberty, and very existence of our people. And so we call on the international community, including human rights organizations, governments, and individuals of conscience to join us in our struggle. It's time to take decisive action to support the people of East Turkestan in their quest for freedom and dignity. And I hope that more and more people will act to hold China accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Salih Hudair, for giving us the situation of human rights in Xinjiang, occupied Xinjiang, which is East Turkestan. And we will come up with questions when we open the floor. Our last speaker is Habibur Rahman. Habibur Rahman is president of Pashtun Tahaffuz Movement, France, and Pashtuns are one of the most oppressed people in the world, because they are branded globally by Pakistan as terrorists, but they are the biggest victims of terrorism, and in especially in Pakistani areas of Pashtun in KP province and ex-Fata areas, Waziristan, and all those. Pashtuns are facing state oppression also, and they are facing terrorism also, and they are the biggest victim in this global game. Habibur Rahmanji, floor is yours. Please give us a situation of Pashtuns.
Thank you. Uh, Nice to meet you all. That I am the we are the representations of Pashtun here. That we are all in Europe, in Italy, in Swiss, in Belgium, in UK, in Germany, and around the all countries of Europe. We are here. We are increase the voice of oppressed Pashtuns, and also we are stand with all oppressed people like Baloch, Sindhis, and Kashmiris, which are suffering the lives from the army of Pakistan. We started this struggle in 2018, which the people of Waziristan, Bajawar, and Banu and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they were always suffering from the armies of Pakistan, but the Pakistan of army, they were always talking about the terrorists, which they were in reality, they were armies which they are going to the area of Pashtuns by the name of Lashkar-e Taiba or by the name of Jeshul Adal. Like this kind of some terrorists, they are always in the area of Pashtun from 2014 or 2013. On time, the army of Pakistan, they want to get some funding or dollars from the world. Then they making a group of terrorists, and after that they are sending them to the area or the areas of Pashtuns. And after that, they are going by the name of securitism. They are doing operation, and they are bombing the houses of Pashtuns, or and also they are disappearances the Pashtuns, and after that they are calling on the world that they wanted the dollars or for making operations by the name of anti-terrorism. But Pashtuns are not terrorists. Pashtuns are always the victims of terrorism. The army of Pakistan, all the world now knows that they are training to the terrorists, and this army of Pakistan, they are terrorists, and also they has the factories of the terrorism, which they also are sending these terrorists to Afghanistan by the name of Al Qaeda or by the name of Daesh. And also in Balochistan, in Kashmir, in Sindh, they also sending these kind of terrorists, and after that they are doing the operation, which after that they are killing the common people. These terrorists in the day they are terrorists, but at night they are armies. They are doing two faces policies with the world. And now we found the way to go to international human rights that the actions of Pakistani armies are violation from human rights. And we are always together, oppressed people. We will we will be joined in the future, and we will always go to the international human rights organization to increase the voice of those oppressed people which are suffering from the army of Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Habib ur Rahman. And now we will open the floor for the questions. Let me take this liberty to have first question from my side. And my first question is to David Vance. That David, tell me, China, Pakistan, they are violating human rights with impunity, and in Pakistan, there are genocides of Pashtuns and Baloch going on. Pakistan is worst place for minorities. In China, as Salih Hudair explained us, situation of East Turkistan, and then there is occupied Tibet, and then there are situations of human rights in Hong Kong. Although there was an agreement between UK and China before handing over Hong Kong to China for having civil liberties in Hong Kong, but China is not listening. So how the world should react to China, Pakistan, and these kind of countries who are violating human rights with impunity, and there is no global action against them, like we took actions in Iraq, Syria, Libya. I think situation of human rights is much worse in China and Pakistan. Mike, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The situation in China and Pakistan, as we've been talking about, is much worse than happened in Libya or Iraq. That's guaranteed. So here's the problem. Here is the fundamental problem. The Western superpowers or major powers are weak. They are cowardly. They are afraid. They are afraid in some cases. In Britain, the British government is afraid to speak up against some of these atrocities, because in the case of China, for example, they're in an economic straitjacket with China in some regards. When it comes to Pakistan, they're afraid to speak up because they have some very hostile indigenous Pakistanis living in the UK, as you know, Arif. So it's a clear lack of leadership and strength in the West to stand up for what I mean. I listened with great interest to what's been said there by the other various speakers, and Salah, I totally get the situation in East Turkestan. It's appalling, and in a proper world, we would stand. Our governments would give you the support, but they don't. And this is Arif. This is one of my big themes. I mean, I remember just very briefly. I remember back in 2018, I went to the United Nations building in Geneva with my friend Katie Hopkins. We went and we called out Pakistan. I called it out as a failed terrorist state. And we need more of that stuff. We need sometimes just waiting for big governments to take action isn't enough. We need to pressurize. And that's why I think the work that you do and your colleagues is so important. Because, if you're going to wait, if you're waiting for Joe Biden or whoever the current UK Prime Minister is, and that changes very quickly, to take action, you're going to wait a long time. I think you're going to have to you're going to have to continue to pressurize to bring these atrocities, this gross abuse to light, as you have been doing, and spread the word so more and more people can understand it. we mightn't have the big governments, on our side, but we do have this capacity that you're demonstrating here online to communicate across the world. So that's the strength we have that at this point they can't take from us.
You are right. Yeah, agreed. And there are European governments are playing some roles in different kind of appeasement.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is a question from Sarang Shahane. Why OIC is sleeping when its own member Pakistan forcefully abducts and converts helpless Hindus living there, and same OIC and Pakistan interfere when India helps those appeased minorities. I would add to these questions, and I will put this question to Salih there, that why OIC is sleeping when China is terrorizing Muslims of East Turkistan. Why OIC does not play a role in Pakistan and China while the gross human rights violations going on there?
Well, I'm not sure how I can answer Mr. Sarang Shahani's question, but I think it's more or less the same response on what they're doing. Why the OIC is sleeping in regards to China's ongoing genocide and oppression of predominantly Muslim peoples in East Turkestan, and that's simply because of economics. One, two, the political ties between the countries and member states of the OIC. For example, the OIC, majority of the OIC states are, I would say, at least half of them are Arab states. The other half are, other Muslim states across the world, but they all have deep economic and political cooperation with China. Um, and that's why, in our case, they don't criticize China; they ignore it. In fact, they laud China's um, ongoing genocide and occupation in East Turkestan. Again, the same way that the Pakistani, government is calling the Pashtun population as terrorists. This is what the Chinese government says as well, that we're engaging in so-called anti-terrorism. And the OIC delegation, which has visited East Turkestan, has praised the Chinese government's so-called counterterrorism efforts and so forth, despite the destruction of over 16,000 mosques, despite the fact that people in East Turkestan can't even pray, despite the fact that the Chinese government called Islam an ideological virus. Because again, at the end of the day, it's unfortunately economics and political relations. China, many of these OIC member states are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is China's multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure project on appearance, but essentially it's a Chinese project for global supremacy. And because these countries are part of that, they're silent to it. Also, secondly, because the other important aspect of this, and this is also why the OIC is silent when it comes to um, Pakistan, and while it's criticizes India, is because of the East-West dynamics. So the OIC is inherently against the Western system of governance. It's against the Western world. So India is one of those nations which is a democratic nation which aligns with the Western world, and that's the reason, because the Chinese are against the West, and because they are trying to push back against Western influence in the Middle East, in Southeast, in South Asia, and Central Asia. That's why the OIC is supportive of China. Another political reason of why, and that's because India is part of the Western Bloc in the eyes of the OIC and others, because it's a democratic nation. Therefore, they're sticking out for their own member, Pakistan, despite the atrocities that Pakistan is committing.
Agreed, Salih. The next question is by Why Me? Arif Ajakia, dear panel members, Namaste. My question is, what do you think about the Hindu girls in Sindh getting abducted? What do we need to do to help them. I will put this question to Azim Bhai, who represents Pakistan Minority Rights Organization. Azim Bhai, any reply?
Gee, yes, thank you very much. I was happy to answer the first question as well, because it was for the Hindus, which is a big minority in Pakistan. Yes, it is a problem. Hindus are forced um, to convert, but it's more girls actually. And what our friend said, that what we can do actually, um, as we discussed, we were discussing a few minutes ago, most of the girls are forcibly converted in Hindu girls are forcibly converted in Sindh area, and we're not getting news on time even. There's a lot more disconnection in between mainstream media and even in social media. So we're not getting news on time. Anytime we are getting news, somebody from different organizations, they do actually try to control the situation, but sometime it's too late actually. When we will get to know, I mean, the girl is already converted, already in marriage, and maybe she has a child as well. So it is a problem basically. And my friend said that what OIC can do. OIC is not interfering in the inner, I mean, the matters of any country. So they only control the international side of things, and we actually we are helpless, to be honest, to protect any girls. It's not only Hindus; the Christian girls are facing the same thing. I would say not only the Christian girls, any poor girl in Pakistan is facing the same challenge. Whoever has power, whoever ever has control, will take the advantage of that situation. So it's not only for the minorities actually, and not only for the Hindus. I know it get more highlighted, but on the other hand, I have to remind you one girl who was forced. I mean, I won't say forced, but I think somehow it was wish of the girl as well. In Nankana Sahib, she was taken, and then she was forced back to the family. I mean, the Pakistan army interfere, and they force that family and the girl to come back to the family, to his parents. So, I mean, I agree that if right channels are activated to control the situation, it is possible to control the forced marriages and forced conversion. As a minority, it is my concern. I mean, uh, and as a human rights activist, it's my concern for every girl or every person who is forced to force for anything. I would, let's say, there are like 400 cases of blasphemy in just last year, and they're not all against the minorities; they're against the majority as well. So the concerns are there for every human, to be honest, not only for the minorities. So the majority girls, whoever is a poor, will get face the same situation. I know it get more highlighted when it's minority girls, but believe me, all the people. I mean, like we were discussing about the different provinces. Whoever has the power will control the situation. So it's not only only for the girls, if for everything. I mean, the resources. I mean, Arif Bhai just said it's one of the province, but I can't say that. And I mean, our Pashtun friend said for one of our establishment, but I can't say that because I do not have that concrete proof. But I know that the interest community has interest in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and in Soviet. So that was the time when, I mean, a lot of dollars was pumped in, and I mean the Wahhabism was introduced, and a lot of jihadism was introduced at that time. So the things are not actually that straightforward. And I don't. I mean, my friend, the Pashtun friend, is not happy because they are labeled as terrorists. I don't think they are labeled as terrorists. I mostly live in Punjab and in Islamabad, and my best friends are Pashtuns, and they're very loving people. I don't know from where he got the idea that they've been labeled as terrorists. That's not true, and he denied in his own words that actually they're not Pashtun. They are the army people. Basically, they are doing the terrorism or something like this. But they're trained. They are paid for that. So we shouldn't blame them for to achieve their own goals. Okay. So for the question, the answer for abducted girls in Sindh, is much complicated because we're not getting information on time. Although a lot of people are working there, but we're not getting information on time because of lack of communication. Even the social media is there, but we're still not getting enough information. Thank you.
Well, Azim bhai, you are right, but the situation in Sindh is different than Punjab. In Punjab, there are many organizations working for the minorities issues, but in Sindh, there is virtually nothing, no one. And ABC has reported there that in Pakistan, on average, 1,000 Hindu girls are converted by force every year. So, situation in Sindh is very severe, and even if the information comes immediately, the parents of the girl go to the court does not give any relief to the family. In one of the cases, a 14-year-old girl was kidnapped, raped and forcefully converted, and when she was presented in court and she agreed that I was forcefully converted and I am 14 years old, so I am underage. According to constitution of Pakistan, I cannot change my religion, etc., etc. Court agreed that it was a forceful conversion, so court said that send her to Darul Aman, a place for
Safety.
unattended women. And the parents said that it is our daughter, give her to us. Why are you sending it to orphanage? And court said no, she will go to. And after 2 months, that girl was handed over to the rapist again. So in Sindh, even after information, there is no voice raised. In Punjab, situation is different. I would also say that in Punjab, majority of minorities are from Christian community, and churches of world are also raising voice for the situation of Christians in Punjab. But for Hindus of Sindh, there is nobody raising voice. So situation is different. I would go for next question from Pradeep Modi ji. In Pakistan, the military has the upper hand. Civil liberties are inversely proportioned to military rule. A full democracy is one of the solutions to uphold human right. Agreed, Pramod Modi ji. In fact, it was a comment rather than question. Uh, Next question is Advait Sanatan. It's time for determine the definition of terrorism. United Nations must do for that. Agreed, David?
Yeah, absolutely. But this is a perennial question. We do need to have an agreed definition of terrorism. The difficulty is that this is, I think, almost impossible to achieve because the old saying in this: one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Now that may or may not be true, but I feel that it's very difficult to define terrorism. The use of force against civilians, is that a acceptable definition of terrorism? I've lived in a country in Northern Ireland that went through 40 years terrorist campaign. I've had family killed by terrorists. I know what terrorism is. Don't get me wrong. I'm very clear on what terrorism is. I think terrorism is a universal evil. I think that. And I think that it should be the obligation of governments to take action against terrorists. But here's the problem, Arif and fellow panelists. What if the government itself is a terrorist? Which, of course, is exactly the case. I see my friend nodding there. And with China, for example, I mean, China is essentially a terroristic government. Pakistan is essentially a terroristic government. So for that to be dealt with, the United Nations would have to come to some sort of understanding. I don't think that they will, because I think they lack the moral clarity to be able to do that. But yeah, terrorism, we can all understand it when it's a particular subgroup, but when it's the government that's the terrorist, what you going to do?
Agreed. There are more questions about Hindu girls of Sindh, and I can understand that people are worried, because this is one of the worst kind of Hindu girls situation. Let me explain. It is not simply forced conversion. It's a girl from minor age, under 18, is kidnapped, raped, and then forced to convert and forced to marry the man. And once she becomes Muslim, according to Islamic Sharia, she cannot have relations with her parents and her family back. So the husband either sells her to another man, either sells her for organ harvesting, either do anything to that girl. There will be no family behind her. So this is really, that girl becomes a sex slave for life, and this is one of the worst kind of human rights violations. And that's why I understand that people from India are very much worried about the Hindu girls. There are so many questions, so it is generally same question, so I cannot take all, but one I will take, which is directed to David. Hello, David Vance. Sir, Pakistani Hindus are being assaulted every year, every day. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, well, obviously they are, and obviously that's wrong, and obviously action has to be taken against it. This is why, Arif, this is why I went to the UN to call out Pakistan for being a terrorist state. And the fact is that it has no respect for minority Hindus within its alleged boundaries. So yeah, this is as you say. And so, Arif, some of the things you were just saying there about, it's absolutely horrific when you hear them said like that. And clearly, what has to happen is there does need to be firm action taken against such a regime that assaults any minority. Again, it's like fellow panelists have said here. We have to be concerned about human rights of everybody. You don't just get to say, oh, certain groups have civil rights and human rights and other people don't. So Hindu girls, Hindu people, any Christian, any whatever, they all have to have the same protection under the law. That's the essence of what certainly Western democracy is built upon. And but we see that being taken away from us in the West as well. So Pakistani Hindus absolutely being egregiously terrorized by the Pakistani state. And that's where there does need to be some real pressure put on that failed Pakistani state. Arif, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, David. Ayushi Jha, is there any way to bring back minority girls from abductor by the help of human rights organizations? Ayushi, I would reply this. Human rights organizations only raise the issues. We don't have powers to interfere in any country's internal matters. Now, here about the Hindu girls, we have discussed in details. The only thing is that when a Muslim has a little problem in India or anywhere else, entire Muslim community from the world raises up and issues the warnings and protest and all these. But when Hindu girls are being targeted in Pakistan, particularly in Sindh, there are no voices from India, which is motherland to Hindu community. So I think there is a lack of commitment by Indian government that they are not raising any voice, or generally Hindus. There are about 1 billion Hindus in India. Why they are not raising the voice? When I tweet about an atrocity on Hindu girl, I hardly get 10 likes, no repost, nothing. So it is responsibility of Hindu community to become a force like Muslims do. So I think more it is about responsibility lies in India. And I would take last question because time is going up and it is Saturday and everyone has to go to their families. Uh, Madhu Soneri has raised an issue when I went to India 2 months back. I met Madhu and he has a really serious issue. There are hundreds of fishermen belonging to India are in jails of Pakistan, and belonging to Pakistan are in jails of India because of strained relationship between both these countries. Often fishermen by mistake they cross their international maritime borders and they are apprehended. And I am in contact with some of friends, political friends, who often go to jail, as in Pakistan army puts politicians in jail for to pressurize them to change the allegiance. Those friends told me that their situation of those Hindus in those Indian Hindus and Muslims, both fishermen, their situation in jail is very bad, and they live in very harsh conditions. And Pakistan terms these fishermen as Indian terrorists, and India terms Pakistani fishermen as Pakistani terrorists. And this is just because of politics. Hundreds of people are in jails, innocent people. Even United Nations maritime laws also does not allow a country to arrest a fisherman. They can only warn them and then release. So this is a serious situation. We don't have any solution on that because hundreds of families are suffering back home in India and Pakistan because their breadwinners, their loved ones are in jail. So, Soneri Bhai, we are trying. I am trying my best also on this issue, but we let's see what can be done. In the end, I will go to each panelist if any closing remarks, starting with Salih Hudair.
Again, thank you for holding this important panel, and I hope that from the discussions that we learning about each other's each different communities problems, that we can cooperate in the future. And I hope that the watchers, the listeners who are watching and tuning into this live stream and into this webinar can support us in any way, even if it's sharing the video, even if it's following us on social media, spreading any, and even if it's one post a day or one post a week about what's happening to these vulnerable communities, whether it's in East Turkestan, whether it's in Pakistan, in India, or other parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Saliji. How about Azim Bhai? What is your closing remarks, please?
Yeah, thank you very much again for holding this online conference. What I want to say to all my Indian friends regarding Hindus, uh, nowadays in Sindh, I mean, because the problem is identified in Sindh. Asif Zardari is from Sindh and he's the president of Pakistan at the moment. So we want to raise our voice to our president to look that issue very closely. The second thing which I want to say, there are more Hindus in parliament than Christians. We have reserve seats, and there are more Hindus in Pakistan now in parliament. So I would request them as well to look after their own people, I would say. And all people who have concern in India, they should get in contact with those representatives who are representing Hindu community in Pakistan. So that could be another solution. But as but sitting in England, we couldn't find any Hindu, to be honest. So I want to take opportunity. If any Pakistani Hindu, I mean, we can't take Indian Hindus with us, but any Pakistani Hindu in England can contact with us, or any Sikh, Pakistani Sikh, can contact with us, so they can be a part of our team, so we can work more toward that. The other thing is, I will raise voice through APPG for Pakistani minorities in British Parliament as well. So I'm sure this video will go to them as well, and we will raise this issue in British Parliament as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azimji. Habib Bhai, any closing remarks from you, please? Your mic is off.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have no any question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Habib Bhai. David, any closing remarks?
Yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you, Arif, for all the incredibly hard work that you do. I want to thank all the fellow panelists. I think you've made lots of really good points. So much food for thought. And one of there's two things. Number one, activism is important. It's really important, and we shouldn't look to other people to speak up. Each of us has that obligation to speak up ourselves. That's what we have to do. And that's what I think in our different ways we're all trying to do. And then this final thing from me is just to say, we have this sense of shared humanity. And what affects my friends in wherever, actually doesn't matter, it affects me. We're all linked within humanity, and we should raise our voices against tyranny, against terrorism, and against those who would treat people so badly. So thank you so much, Arif, for the opportunity. It's great to see you again.
Thank you, David. Thank you, friends, for joining us today. And we tried to raise the issues of different Asian countries. There might be some lack of taking up questions, but still we tried our best. And it is our first show. We will keep making the shows. We have a monthly newsletter. Our March issue was issued yesterday. And if anyone wants to have that issue, they can contact us. Thank you very much, David, Azim Bhai, Salih Bhai, and Habib Bhai. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.